Hello everybody, and welcome back to Taking the Stairs. So I want to give you a quick recap on embedding evidence into your writing, because on the previous assignment I posted, you're just doing the first body paragraph, and based on the work that I was grading, a lot of you are still not quite getting what I'm looking for. So connected to this assignment, I'm going to post the second body paragraph. So if you go back to the previous assignment and look at my comments, please make sure that you incorporate what I said to you before into this assignment. So I want to start by talking about scaffolding. So scaffolding is this idea of providing students with small steps, small scales that build up on top of one another. And then slowly but surely you build a base of skills which forms the structure of what you're doing. In this case, writing. And if you think back over the school year, I've been slowly scaffolding in embedding evidence assignments, and at this point I feel like you should have had enough practice on doing this correctly. Based on what I read from your last assignment, some of you are just not even attempting to embed your evidence at all. Like you're just dropping a quote into your writing, which is a no-go. No. So please make sure that you go back to your previous assignments and look at how we've structured these, because for some of them I have even did them with you in class. So you should have multiple examples of exactly what I'm looking for. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for exactly. Now, please be aware that this is my example. And I'm not asking you to copy me, I'm asking you to look at what I'm doing and implement the same skill. That's really what scaffolding is all about. I will show you the skills, I will give you all the building blocks, but ultimately it's you who needs to put it all together and show me that you've learned something. So I wrote a paragraph and I want to talk to you about what it is I'm looking for here. So the first thing that I want to make a point about is screen time has a negative effect on students primarily because it causes a distraction. So that's my point. That's the reason why screen time has a negative effect on students. Then I have evidence, and this is the article that was written by Oreo, and in this article she says, "At home, many children and teenagers use entertainment media at the same time that they are engaged in other tasks such as homework. And evidence increasingly suggests that the use of media while engaged in academic tasks has negative consequences in learning." So that is the evidence that I have to support my reason. Now what I'm seeing from my students is some of you will just make your points, have your quote, and then follow up with something like, "This shows that screen time has a negative effect on students." How? How does it show that? And that's really the key that I'm looking for. How exactly does it show that? That is what I talk about when I say you need to justify your answer. You need to talk about how your evidence is supporting your reason. And you need to smoothly embed that evidence. So I have a clear point. Now I need to find a way to smoothly embed it into the writing. So I came up with this paragraph. Screen time has a negative effect on students, primarily because it is a distraction. Students think they can entertain themselves while they work, and many children and teenagers use entertainment media at the same time that they are engaged in other tasks, such as homework. Students trying to multitask between work and play is incredibly problematic because it ultimately serves as a distraction. Students may feel that they are giving their brains a rest while having additional tabs open or having a cell phone by their side, but they are actually never giving themselves an opportunity to focus intently on their work. Difficult math homework or English writing assignments require extended periods of concentration to accomplish the task well. and having entertainment readily available as another option forces their brains to choose between focused attention and entertainment. So what you'll see I've done here is I kept the point that I had already, and I selected the best part of the evidence from the quote that I showed before. So I have my point and I have my evidence. So I need to think about how can I embed this evidence smoothly. And when I talk about embedding evidence, I'm thinking of how it should flow together like a wave. So what I'm doing here is I have pointed out that students think they can entertain themselves. And I use that as a lead-in to my evidence, because the evidence then talks about how children and teenagers are using entertainment media while they're doing the homework. And that's the problem I'm trying to talk about later in the paragraph, that this is a distraction. So I have made my point, I made a connection with my point to my evidence, and then I smoothly embedded that evidence into my writing. And then, of course, don't forget, I added a citation. In this case, we didn't have a page number for the citation, so I just put parentheses, last name of the author. So after that, I then need to justify how does this evidence support what I'm saying. As I pointed out before, I've seen too much of the
"this evidence proves my point because..."
What is this? How does it prove the point? Well, let's look at how I proved my point. I point out how multitasking is a problem because it ultimately serves as a distraction, which is me connecting back to my reason again. I point out how students think they're giving themselves a rest by having these distractions around them, and they think that they are working, but actually this is just a distraction. And what am I talking about exactly? What is the distraction? Having tabs open, having a cell phone near them. And then I dig a little bit deeper into why this is a distraction, and I talk about how math and writing require extended periods of concentration. And that's the key here, that we need to have extended periods of concentration in order to do good work. And the screens are causing a distraction to that concentration. And that's really my explanation or my justification at work. And if you look at my paragraph here, remember I'm just using one piece of evidence, and I'm expecting you to use two pieces of evidence in your writing. So in this paragraph where I just have one piece of evidence, look at the line breakdown. I have 1.5 lines where I make my point and I transition to my evidence. My evidence itself is only 1.5 lines. And then after that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 lines after the evidence. And all of that is going into detail and justifying my position. And that is going to require multiple sentences. Here, it took me 3 sentences to explain myself, which ended up being 7 lines when I typed it out. And so that's something you really need to think about. Are you really making the effort to justify how is this evidence supporting your point? Now that's the tricky thing about writing, because you really have to question yourself. The students who do well in their writing in my classes are also the ones that are constantly questioning themselves and doubting themselves. And they'll say to me, "Mr. Wheeler, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right." That's the kind of thinking that you should have. You should constantly be thinking, am I doing this right? Is there another way I can communicate this idea? Should I explain this differently, use different sentences, use different words? Play around with it. Language is a game that you need to play, and how the words fit together to communicate meaning is the game we're playing here. So, on the assignment I posted on Google Classroom, I want to see you having a clear point in your second body paragraph, that you're using 2 pieces of evidence which are smoothly embedded, and I definitely want to see a very thorough justification of how this all comes together. So play around with this, you have time. And I look forward to reading your second body paragraph of your essay. And again, thank you everybody for joining me on the stairs. I greatly appreciate your time and your attention.